Welcome back to the Boro Breakdown podcast with Jonny, Dana, and Tom. And we are the Boro podcast that gives you the ins, the outs, the ups, the downs of Middlesbrough Football Club. But today we've got a guest with us, and this man probably doesn't need an introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway. And he's played over 600 games in English football with Oxford, Sunderland, Stoke, Boro, and Huddersfield. He's been described by his colleagues as the utmost professional, a leader on and off the pitch, and it's no surprise that he has started his career into coaching now. It's, of course, Dean Whitehead. Dean, thank you very much for joining us.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so Dean, I'm just going to start right at the beginning of your career, really, and we'll move our way through your career. But I want to start off where you right at the beginning. Abington Town in the non-league, you've moved your way up the ranks. Was football always part of your life growing up? Was it something that you always wanted to be a footballer, or is it something that you relatively fell into?
No, I think I always did want to be. Like any little boy's dream is always to play football, and that was mine. And mine started at Abington Boys, which is just a local team for me. I could just walk across, to the grass pitches and go and play football where, nothing mattered, nobody cared, and you just went out and enjoyed it, and just continue from there, really, from under sevens, eights, nines, tens. Can't remember when I first got picked up by Oxford to go into their centre of excellence. At that point, I had to stop playing for my local team and my local county, which I was in as well, which was a Vale of the White Horse. But once that had started I couldn't do that. Then things were getting a little bit more serious, and building my way to try and earn a YTS, which it was then. It's obviously scholarships now, but and I got selected as one of the three in our group. Only three of us got selected, and managed to do that, and then managed to sign a pro contract when I was 17.
Yeah, and it was a long career as well. But in terms of making it pro, did you have any role models when you were growing up and going through like the YTS or like the scholarships? And have they give you any piece of advice that has stuck with you throughout the 600 games that you've played?
No, I don't think so. I just think it comes from your family, your background. Working class family where you work as hard as you can, as often as you can, and that's basically it, really. Every time I went into a training session or into a game, I just used to work as hard as I can, give my all, and if that wasn't enough, then it wasn't enough. But I could come off the pitch knowing that I'd given everything.
Yeah, well, all that hard work really helped you get your first move from Oxford to Sunderland, and it's a big move probably for you. Obviously Oxford is, I dare say, I consider a smaller club to what Sunderland may be, and obviously the stadium of light was full, and the fans, dare I say, in Sunderland are very, very passionate. If you've seen the documentary, you can really see why. But how did the move to Sunderland come about, and how did you adjust to moving to Weir side? Because of course it's a big move for you.
Yeah, it was. It was a big move for me at the time. I think the year leading up to when I moved to Sunderland, I decided that I was going to see my contract out. I knew there'd be a tribunal fee involved. Didn't know how much, but I decided to take that chance. Yes, I know it might have been risky with injuries and other things that can happen, but I got offered a really, really good contract by Oxford at the end of that season. And I could have stayed. I could have sat in my comfort zone. I could have been at home. Could have had everything that comes easy to you. But I didn't want that. That wasn't what I wanted. I wanted to go and challenge myself, to see how far I could go, what I could handle, what I couldn't. So it was a real big jump for me, coming right out of my comfort zone, opposite end of the country, and it was tough up there to start with, really, really tough. But I think once I'd settled myself in the team, probably September time, I didn't really look back from there on.
How come you found it so tough when you moved up?
Well, I think if anybody knows me personally, knows my character, I'm not the most outgoing. I'm not the. I don't give much away. I'm just a. I suppose at that time I was naive, shy, however you want to call it. Didn't really fit into the group straight away because I was that character that didn't really approach people too much. And we had other players that come in at the same time. It would have been Liam Lawrence and a couple of others at the same time. They were completely opposite to me, and they integrated themselves into the group really, really quickly. So I had the challenge of almost earning a bit more respect on the pitch to try and integrate myself into the group. And I'd done that probably from September, October, November. Started to really show what I was about on the pitch and gain that little respect to help me work my way into the group a little bit.
Yeah, well, once you worked your way in, it was a very successful time at Sunderland. It was a bit of a roller coaster, if I'm brutally honest. You had like the promotions, the relegations. You were captain at points, and obviously you scored as well, a few goals for them as well. But the fans ultimately loved you in the end. And I've got a few Sunderland fans, and every time when I said that you come on the podcast, they couldn't be more. I couldn't have said anything happier, to be honest, happier or nicer things to say about you. They just said how professional you were, and you might not be like the sexiest football in the world in terms of being on the score sheet every week, but that working hard and winning the second balls and putting everything on the pitch really related to them as a fan. But how would you sum up your time at Sunderland? Would you say it was a success?
Well, we won two championship titles.
Yeah, you did.
Yes, we got relegated in the first season. But the second season, we stayed up. Yeah, I'd say it was successful. As a young player trying to develop, trying to find his way in the game, in the league, to step into a big club like that, with huge expectations, huge fan base, huge pressure in that particular league. We were expected to win every single game, and it's really difficult in that league to do that. But we found a group of players and a manager that got the best out of us at that particular time, in Mick McCarthy. But personally, I think it was quite successful, but ended a little bit sour for me, really.
Yeah, it did. Obviously, when I was from the reading side of things, some of the fans weren't particularly happy on how you left and moved on to Stoke. But just in terms we move before you move on the Stoke move, I just want to ask you a question around Mick McCarthy and Roy Keane, because they were the two managers that you mainly had at Sunderland. What was the culture like under Mick McCarthy and Roy Keane? Could you see the massive difference? Because Mick McCarthy's a massive legend in management. Now you can see why he's doing so well at Cardiff at the minute. Roy Keane's known to be like, obviously when you see him as like a pundit, like quite strict and straight up. Could you see the culture changes like when both managers came in?
I think when they first moved up to Sunderland, and Mick McCarthy was obviously the manager, and I think one of his main strengths are of course setting up a team, setting a game plan to work by. But I think just my management skills in terms of just being honest with players, whether you're playing or whether you're not, straight down the line. There's no messing around. This is what it is, and players can understand that. Yeah, they might not like it, but they can understand it if it's as straight and as dead simple as that. Then players. Yes, it's disappointing sometimes, but you can accept it when it's straight down the line like he is. And obviously Roy Keane was slightly different. Like every coach, every manager has their own ways of working, own ideas. Roy was a bit more. He was a bit more of a watcher of training rather than taking it, whereas Mick was very, very hands on. But obviously Roy Keane had the big aura that surrounds him, standards that are through the roof, and he expected us to have those. Yes, we tried our best to get to the standards he expects. But his standards are a ridiculous height. But he built a team, and ultimately he had a successful time winning the title and keeping the club in the Premier League.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that about Roy Keane, because you can probably tell that he's being managed by Sir Alex Ferguson, and that standards that he has. I think I was reading Sir Alex's book, and he just said like essentially as soon as you come in, it's if you're not at it, you're pretty much out the door. So it's interesting that he's actually followed suit with Sir Alex Ferguson, but it was success for him in the end, I guess. But that time for you at Sunderland obviously did come to an end, and you got your move to Stoke. And ultimately, Dean, it was a good move for you, to be honest. You end up obviously leaving Sunderland. You started playing in European football. It was comfortable finishes in the Premier League under Tony Pulis. Obviously, Tony Pulis has been a Middlesbrough manager before, and his time at the Riverside probably wasn't as sweet as what fans really wanted it to be, mainly around the style of play. Do you think a lot of fans are too critical on Tony Pulis, and how did you find working under him? Because was he a good manager to work for, or do you think he gets a bit too much stick from the fans?
I think you've only got to look at his record, how successful he's been at top clubs. In the Premier League and the Championship. Look, every manager has is their own style, their own philosophy, their own way they want to do things, how they coach, how they manage people off the pitch. And, he has his, and people can criticise, in terms of everybody looks at Pep Guardiola, how he plays and how his teams play. And other managers don't do that way. If you look at Sam Allardyce, he does it a different way, and he's successful. He ended up obviously in the England job for about 5 minutes, but still, he's still got still got that opportunity, even though he was that type of manager. And I don't think you can argue with his record that he had at Stoke in particular. In Europe, got to European quarterfinals, FA Cup final, very, very comfortable mid-table to above finishes in the Premier League. So I don't see how people can give him stick for being successsul.
Yeah, well, that's it. I think fans see it from a completely different perspective to what a player does. So in terms of when you were playing for him, was it completely different? Is it as hard working as it made out? I remember Adam Clayton saying in one of his in the pre-season for Middlesbrough, saying it was the hardest pre-season he's ever had. Would you say that Tony Pulis pre-seasons are disgustingly hard?
Yeah, they're pretty brutal, to be fair. We used to go to Austria. We used to get up at 6:30 in the morning. We used to go on either where you have a run-in, you were on the bike. Either running or on the bike. For
no footballs included.
Zero footballs around. We're not here to play football at this point. And there's big long hills, big long tracks to go and run up and down, and they are very, very tough, to be fair. And then you come back, get in the gym, have some food, and then in the afternoon try and kick some footballs around when you can't feel your legs. So it's it was tough, but that's what gives you the solid base to build a season from, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And then obviously after that successful time, you've went on and moved to Middlesbrough. When your contract ran out, Tom, do you want to take Dean through his Middlesbrough career?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you signed for Boro in 2013, free transfer after 4 years at Stoke City. When was it you first became aware of Boro's interest in you? And also kind of what attracted you to join for the club?
Probably when I think I was on holiday in Portugal at the time. I played the last game of the season at against Southampton for Stoke, and I kind of picked up a little injury on my soleus, which is just above your Achilles and below your calf, and I had to give it a bit of rest. And normally I normally give myself a couple of weeks break and kind of get back at it. But I didn't. I had to give it, plenty of time to heal, but I also knew that, I had to try and find a club and make sure I was fit. So yeah, I got the call when I was probably in Portugal, and I had a couple of other options at the same time in the same league. But yeah, I was attracted because of, at the time, Tony Mowbray's style of play, the club, the size of the club, the history of the club that, should be in the top league. And of course I could commute some days and, stay up there as well, which when I think I was 30 at the time was important to me.
I'll go on to Tony Mowbray's style of play again in a little bit. You've joined a squad that was mixed in terms of experience. You joined the same window as Dimmy, Albert Adoma, Fraser Richardson, Kai Kamara, and Jacob Butterfield. There was a lot of youth in that team as well: Ben Gibson, Curtis Main, Luke Williams, and Jason Steele. Seemed to be kind of quite a mix of personalities there as well. How does that dressing room measure up to other dressing rooms you've been a part of throughout your career?
Yeah, good. It was good. I've been very fortunate actually to find myself in good dressing rooms throughout my career. Really, at Sunderland, I had a good one. Middlesbrough, Stoke, and obviously ended up at Huddersfield. But I think when you've got a good blend and a good mix of old and some older players, a bit of experience, and the young players who have no fear of doing anything, and you just have to keep them in check now and again, and just kind of coax them through it, really.
Going back on to Mowbray and his style of play, he was sacked in October of your first season, replaced by Aitor Karanga. What would you say the differences were kind of in culture between the two, but also did you have a preference on which style of playing, which system of playing?
To be honest, I wasn't, Tony Mowbray got sacked quite early when I got there, and to be honest, when I signed there and come back, because I had the injury, I didn't come back in the best shape. Probably the worst I've ever come back from a pre-season, from a off season, and I didn't really hit the ground running. So that was a little bit disappointing. But by the time I was starting to feel better and feel fitter and get up to speed, unfortunately lost his job, and Aitor come in.
And how much of a difference was there between the two, working under both of them?
Yeah, there was obviously slight differences. I think Tony likes to play from the back, very expansive, attacking kind of style of play. Whereas Aitor was a little bit more pragmatic, a little bit more against the ball, and a little bit more on the transition. And both are fine. Both are absolutely fine. It's their ways, and both have been successful. But I just felt I had a better, relationship probably with Aitor, being a senior player at the time, and him taking over from Tony, and kind of helping him a little bit along the way as well.
You're one of the first players used in what's kind of became a tradition for the club of playing centre mids at right back. I think before you, I can only really remember Nicky Bailey playing there. But since then, it's obviously you, Joseph Varga, Jonny Howson. How do you find playing there? But also, out of all the positions, why do you think it's easiest to kind of convert centre midfielders to right backs in times of need?
Yeah, you do. You see it an awful lot. If you can remember, probably Steven Gerrard probably makes his debut for Liverpool at right back. I just think as a midfield player, when you're receiving the ball, you've always got people around you, so you always have to, be on the half turn. You always have to check your shoulders. There's always somebody coming from some angle. And when you're playing right back, the whole picture, the whole game is in front of you, and it becomes very easy actually. In possession, out of possession could be, it's different when you've got a winger that stands wide, he's quick, he's direct. Yeah, then I'm in trouble. But in terms of in possession, found it quite easy, and out of possession, it depends on the opposition, depends what type of winger they have. But yeah, I found it okay.
I mean, one of the games that you played right back in ended up being the playoff final at the end of the 14-15 season, and also ended up being final match for the club. Firstly, from a playing perspective, what do you think went wrong that day? But secondly, were you frustrated leaving knowing that was your last match? I know sometimes during the league, it might be easier to kind of get back on the training field, put it right a week later or a few days later, but obviously it's not the case at the end of the season.
No, it's not. What went wrong that day? Jesus, where do I start? Disaster, absolute disaster from probably 12 o'clock onwards. Disaster. We obviously stayed at the Grove, which is, I think it's over an hour, maybe something like that, away from the ground. And I'm sure all the staff done their due diligence in terms of getting police escorts and all that sort of stuff to the stadium, which is fine. But when we get close, when we get close to the ground, probably 5, 6, 7 miles, complete standstill. We can't go anywhere. So the people are going, like the players are, keep looking at the watch, and the manager's not happy. He's telling the driver to try and do this, try and do that. He can't move anywhere. Leo's gets out of the coach and tries to shuffle cars around, and but
police escorts.
Just Leo, traffic warning.
So police escorts are supposed to be able to get you through any kind of traffic, aren't? Is that not the way it works?
I would think so.
but not this one. This one, it didn't do anything for us, and no, it was disaster. We got into the ground really late. No time to go and have a look at the pitch, take in the surroundings, get yourself familiar with what's about to happen. One of the biggest games in Championship history, 200 million or whatever it is to get into the Premier League, and we're strolling up, struggling for time to get strap-ins, to get prepared, to get everything you need to do. Each individual's got different ways they like to prepare for games, and we had it in a really, really short spell of time that we had to try and turn things around and get out and warm up, and it was all a bit of a disaster. And the first 20 minutes of the game probably is maybe a knock-on effect. We can make excuses all we want, but the first 20 minutes was probably justified from the last 2 hours maybe. But it was disappointing day, disappointing end to a season where, to be honest, we should have been in the top 2 anyway. We were one of the best 2 sides in the league all season. We've only got ourselves to blame for that, and that being my last game was probably one of the most disappointing, probably arguably the disappointment of my career so far, really, of what my career was. So we travel home. As you can imagine, the bus is dead silent, and I kind of knew what was coming. So we got off the bus. We get to Rockcliffe. We get off the bus, and Aitor pulls me into his office for a chat, and I was experienced enough. I kind of knew what was coming. And yeah, we had a chat, and I just said, look, I want the next next 2 or 3 years, however many years I have left in my career, I need to play games. I can't not at this point. And he couldn't guarantee me that. And he said, look, that's fine. And we went our separate ways. And I still speak to him now. He's a brilliant guy. Had a great relationship with him, and it was difficult to take because such a disappointing day in general. Just got worse, but I went on to a club where I seemed to fall into a good part of their history.
It's a bit of a shock that he told you on the exact day of the playoff final as well that you were no longer needed. That must have been a real sucker to obviously for everything that happened that day.
You got to remember though, when you're in the playoffs, the season your season gets extended a certain amount of weeks afterwards, and there is no time to say, oh yeah, okay, I'll meet you in a week's time. That week time, you've probably, most of the clubs have maybe finished maybe 5-6 weeks, even 4-5 weeks, and he gave me the best amount of time to find a new club, before pre-season started. So, yes, it was just another, hammer in the coffin, really, after a bad day. But first of all, we lose. Then he brings me off at half time, and then he says, "Oh, don't bother coming back." So that was great. He's a real football man, and someone I wish the most successful.
Did it not hurt then to see Boro get promoted the following season? Obviously, knowing that was, the playoff final was your last game. You were sort of close to the success in terms of the timing, but obviously you weren't a part of that the promotion season. So did that hurt a little bit seeing Boro get promoted?
No, a lot of people ask me this. No, it don't, because I was in that dressing room. Such a great set of lads. Work so hard, and to have a second attempt of it, and eventually do it, then it was great. Yes, I'd love to have been part of it, but I had my promotion the following season with Huddersfield. But no, I'm just really pleased for the club getting promoted. A place where the club belongs, really.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned Huddersfield there. Chris Powell brought you in and then was sacked about 5 months later. And I looked.
You have a habit of doing that, don't I?
Yeah, I was sort of saying that. Yeah, got a bit of habit.
But I was having a look at the fan opinion of it, and a lot of people seem baffled. And I remember looking at the sort of the results around that time, and I wasn't thinking that was the type of form that would get a manager sacked. So, do you think it was fair that Chris Powell got sacked, or do you think it was an unfair decision?
It's hard. It's hard for me to say whether it is unfair or not. Managers come and go so quickly nowadays, and arguably looking at what happened afterwards, you arguably say it was the right decision. Whether it was or wasn't at the time, we didn't start great, but we weren't the worst. We were probably about where Huddersfield probably should be. And then we had a completely new German coach who was brilliant for me in terms of a 34-year-old, I think I was at the time, coming in with all these new ideas, and it felt like I was 25. I was like a sponge, and all this new German coach coming in, new idea, new philosophy, new concepts, all sorts of things was, was really, really, intriguing and something that I'll take forward.
Yeah, he managed to turn things around completely in his second season. Huddersfield obviously got into the playoffs. So what clicked under David Wagner then?
What clicked? Quite a number of things, really. I think the pre-season that we had, we got a letter through the post 2 days before we were due to go back, and it just said to us that we were going to Sweden for 5 days. So great, right? So we pack our stuff, we get to the airport, we meet in Sweden. We fly to Sweden. We get there, we jump on a coach, and we get to this kind of looked like a field with a big river, and we get there, we stop there, and he says, right, the guy comes on who was organising it and taking it. He says, right now, this is the time that we take all your phones away from you. So everybody had to hand in their phone. Nobody had their phone with them. There was one phone for an SOS phone if anybody needed it. Was in big trouble. And we had some new signings at the time. We had a few German players and a few other players that were integrated into the squad. So all of a sudden we've got no phones. You know what it's like nowadays. You think, got a phone, what do you do? You have to talk to someone. Like, oh my God, I've got to talk to someone. Jesus Christ, what's going on here? So we have to. So automatically we had to communicate with each other. We had to work together. So we're getting to twos, one player and one new player, or somebody you don't often communicate with or talk, or sometimes football clubs have little cliques around, and then you get into twos. They chucked us a tent. Okay, right. So we had to build a tent. Everyone had to build their own tent. We sleep in that the night, and he said, right, pack your tents away. There was canoes, and then said, right, off you go. We had to get all the food supplies on the canoe, so we had to make sure we worked together as a team to try and move all this stuff. And it was 6 or 7 hours probably rowing before we got to where we needed to get to. By this point, the lads are knackered. They can't do anything. Their arms are killing them. And then we had to put the tent up again. We had to get a fire going. We had to get the fire up and running. We had to, boil water from the lake that we were in, and boil it if you wanted anything to drink. So yeah, that was kind of where it started. We were there for 5 days, and we were out on the canoes fishing and working together in groups to doing different tasks and stuff. And so that's where we had a really good team spirit after that. Really good group that we knew that if one player was going in for a challenge or going to press, we knew the other one would be behind him. And then if that one got beat as well, we knew the third man would be there. We had a real fighting spirit amongst us that it's almost as powerful as anything, really.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on that a little bit because obviously Huddersfield are the only team to gain promotion having finished their campaign with a negative goal difference. And I just wanted to know did you play on that underdog sort of tag? Because I'm not sure whether many people maybe thought Huddersfield were going to go up. They maybe wrote you off a bit, especially in the playoff final against Reading. So do you think that team spirit effectively is what got you up that season?
I think it most certainly played a huge part. Yes, we had a lot of quality in our team, for sure, with a mix of experience and we had a nice blend in the squad. But we had a decent start to the championship season. We got to Christmas and we're still up there, and then you see on the TV all the time, Huddersfield will drop away. That's they've had their little run. They'll drop away after Christmas, no problem. February's there, we're still there. March, April, still there. And all of a sudden, we had a group in the changing room that were full of belief, full of confidence. We didn't believe we were underdogs. We believed that we were good enough. We're there for a reason. Over a certain amount of games, we're in the top 4, in the top 2, in the top 6. So, yes, we might have only been winning games by 1-0, 2-1, very, very small margins. But I think if you have a look deeper into those games, we dominated a lot of those games from start to finish, and didn't often get the goals. But I think with quality, with togetherness, and lots of hard work from the players, the manager, the coaches. We did it all together.
I want to mention this just before we move on to the Premier League season. Adam Clayton's first and only Boro goal, does that go down as an assist for you?
No, it goes down as my goal, not his.
I was thinking it, but did he give you a bit of stick?
Yeah, of course. Got some stick, of course, yeah.
Well,
Because he doesn't even shoot, let alone score, does he? So.
Oh no, there was the following season. I don't know whether you've seen it, but Boro played Reading. It was a game in hand. Adam Clayton's shot must have been heading in Hartlepool or somewhere like that, because thankfully Albert Adomah managed to get his head on it, divert it back towards goal. But I've never seen a shot as wayward as that one. Essentially, it was a great pre-assist, but he never had a great shot on him, did Clayton? So I think he did him a favour there.
Yeah, I think he did in his early career.
Yeah.
He was signed as a goal scorer midfielder, wasn't he? Technically,
and he quickly became number 6.
That's what Boro does to goal scorer midfielders. Nicky Bailey again. What Jonny mentioned.
Yeah, I was the same. I used to score for fun, but I stopped scoring when I went to Boro.
It must be the Riverside Stadium, mustn't it? It must be cursed, I think, just for every midfielder that comes to the club. Everyone just stops scoring.
Anyone that's capable of scoring a goal is just zapped from them.
Grant scored some goals, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
He did.
A lot from the penalty spot, mind.
Yeah, I mean, Grant might be the blip out of all of this, but
the anomaly.
The anomaly, yeah, he probably is the anomaly. But yeah, it's a very cursed position at Boro. To be fair, most positions are like strikers, centre mid. Yeah. Basically, no one likes goals, I don't think, at Boro. I don't know what it is.
They're doing all right now. What are you whinging about? They're doing all right now, aren't they?
yeah. I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
Not complaining.
But yeah, moving on to that Premier League season, you were registered as part of the 25-man squad, obviously, but you only played 7 times that season, 4 times coming in the Premier League. As a player that obviously is a part of the 25-man squad, what is it like not actually playing that many games that season? How did you sort of handle that?
Yeah, I was absolutely fine, because after the playoff final, victory, the day after, we had a kind of a get together at the ground, and I had a good chat with David at the time, and he asked me if I wanted to join his coaching staff, and I said, to be honest, boss, I'm not ready. I'm not ready right now to hang my boots up. So I want one more year, then I think I'll be ready. So he was great with me. So I signed an extra year, and I understood my role. I knew I wasn't going to play a lot, but I played a big role in the changing room in terms of helping the boss get whatever messages down to the players, whether that be directly or indirectly. Kind of show them some leadership in training, as well as off the pitch. And I think when you come into this part in my career that I was in, it's kind of really understanding what my role is. It's not right. Oh, I'm gonna be gutted if I don't play the next game. No, it wasn't that. It was making sure that I train properly, led by example, both on and off the pitch. And so no, it didn't bother me, at all. And just to be part of that special team we had at the time, and it was great.
You retired at the end of that season, 622 appearances throughout your entire career. You obviously took up a coaching role at Huddersfield after that. So what was that transition like from playing on the pitch to coaching on the sidelines?
Yeah, no, in terms of the transition from player to coach was quite smooth, quite easy, really. Yes, I still miss playing, of course, but I had a year when I didn't play so much anyway, so I was kind of comfortable enough with it, because I didn't have time to I didn't have 2 or 3, 4 or 5 months before I then transitioned into coaching. It was instantly. So it wasn't too bad, but from being inside the dressing room, being one of the bigger characters in the dressing room at that time. Now I was in a different colour kit. Now all of a sudden I'm not very popular. And we had, like I said, we had some great lads, and anything you asked them to do, whether you were coaching them or whatever, they would do it. So yeah, it can be uncomfortable sometimes when they're your mates 1 second, and then all of a sudden, I'm on the enemy side a little bit. But it's it was all good, and really enjoyed my coaching time there.
Did you find the initial transition quite hard? And I know you say it was quite a smooth transition, but in terms of the lads, obviously it's changing from being the best pal as a player, and then also moving to a management role. Do you think was that transition a little bit difficult in terms of relationships that you had with some of your mates?
Yeah, sometimes you get to Friday nights and the lads don't know the team, and all of a sudden I'm really popular. My phone, what's the team tomorrow? Am I in the squad? Am I playing? But you can't give anything away. You can't. This is the manager that makes the decisions, and I wasn't to go behind him and say anything in terms of that. But yeah, it can do. But I mean, outside of the club, our relationships with the players remained the same, and it's just I was only in a different colour kit and just telling them to do this and that, and that was the only difference, really.
Yeah, I mean, you could. There's no more pre-season for you, really. Now you could stand there.
I was loving it. Oh, go on, lads, come on. There's one more run, 2 more runs. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, start making the boards again. It would be lovely. I mean, I must say the pre-season at Huddersfield is the most bizarre pre-season I think I've ever heard in my life.
It's good though. It's good for team building.
Yeah, it's
no, it really was, and it's something that people have asked me, would I do that? When one day I'm the head coach, and quite possibly because it was really unique. Never done anything like that before. Especially if you're getting your players in early in the summer. You've got players in early, and you can, because there's no point going if you've got the same group of players, without any new signings. Yes, you can go and it might be okay, but really, really important to integrate new signings, and even the manager and the coaches all done exactly what we done, mucking in on everything. So. It was one team, not individuals.
Yeah, apart from a bizarre pre-season, is there anything that you're going to take with you into your management career from the managers that you've worked with? Obviously, the likes of McCarthy, Pulis, Karanka, Wagner. Is there anything that you've took from them and implement them yourself?
I think when you work with good people, good managers. You begin to take, snippets from them, or what you value is, can fit into, my beliefs, my values, my style, my culture, my environment, whatever it is. And you will take bits from some, and some more than others, or vice versa. And then you have to put them together and build your own identity, your own philosophy on how you work as a leader. When you're talking about leadership, I'm different to Roy Keane, to Mick McCarthy, to Tony Pulis. So I have to firstly understand what I am and who I am as a leader, and how I can get the best out of a group of players, and build from there, really.
Yeah, they say have strong goals, but be flexible how you get there. In terms of, is that going to be replicating your management style? So, would your management style fluctuate depending on what group you choose to have in the future?
Yeah, I think if you have principles and you have values and you have a way of playing, don't necessarily have to be right. Yeah, I'm going to go this formation. I think if you get the principles of how you want to play, in possession, at whatever it is, you can play any system with any bunch of players. But firstly, I think you have to understand what your squad looks like, how it could potentially fit into the way that I want to play. And if that isn't the case, then you have to think on your feet. You have to adapt. You have to find solutions to make it right.
Would you say, I know it's very early in your career for management, but would you say that you've thought of the style, what, like the Dean Whitehead style? Is it the gen press, or are we going possession, or are we going to go Tony Pulis long ball in the corner and try and get it in and around the box, or have you thought about a particular style that you would be ideal for you?
Of course. I'm currently on my pro license now, and I've got my own way I want to work, my own principles, my own style, and obviously the way I want to create a culture, want to create a high performance environment that that people enjoy working in, and hopefully in the future we'll find out how it works.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. But in terms of your playing career, you've had promotions, you've had relegations, you've also played in Europe, you've done so much in your career. What would you say your greatest achievement was throughout the 622 games you've played? I mean, that itself's an achievement.
Yeah, it's okay.
Just brushed it
I
off.
think my greatest achievement probably would be being able to play and sustain a level of performance and stay in the Premiership and the Championship for pretty much the whole of my career, really, for however many years it was, 18, 19 years or whatever it was. I think the greatest achievement for me is staying at that level for so long, and that's something that I'm very, very obviously grateful of, but proud.
What was your highlight at Boro? Sorry, Jonny. What was your highlight at Boro, would you say?
Highlight at Boro?
Mm-hmm.
Probably the most disappointing part of my career, to be honest, because we had such a good team, and we did, and we threw away promotion in obviously my last season in terms of the automatic promotion. But I don't know. We had a good day at Man City at the Etihad, where Tomo ran riot a little bit. That was a good day. Obviously beating Brentford over two legs was good, but meant nothing. So disappointing, really. Disappointing overall.
Have you still got Stefan Jovetic in your back pocket from Man City?
I've got him. I've got Sergio. They're all in there. Don't worry.
Didn't Lee Tomlin has Vincent Kompany though, doesn't he?
Yeah, Tomo was pretty much unplayable that day. Incredible performance from him.
Yeah, I must admit, like I would love to be in the dressing room after that game. Just to did he ever shut up about that turn? Because
he don't shut up anyway. So whether he's doing the turn or not, it don't matter.
I mean, I wouldn't have blamed him really if it went in. Like it would have been one of the greatest goals I've ever seen live. But the fact that it didn't, it's just like one of those things. Every time I watch it, I'm like, I just want it to go in, just that once, just to see what it would have been like for a fan. But
well, I'll tell you what
in the semis as well, didn't he?
Yeah, did. Sorry, then gone.
I was going to say, I'll tell you what my favourite part of your Boro career was when you scored against Derby, and then that the fan came on. You started celebrating with a fan. That was good.
What, the guy in the wheelchair?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I do remember that actually. It's important that everybody enjoys scoring a goal, whether that's me, and supporters and enjoy when it goes in, and it's important to celebrate together, and hopefully that made them happy that day.
Yeah, it's a great moment. Like when you watch that back, I feel like you just don't know what to do with yourself at that current time. Like, there's so many bizarre things that could happen.
Score for so long.
Yeah.
What do you want me to do?
Could have jumped in the crowd. Could have done anything. I meant the reaction of like someone coming on the pitch. It was being mental. But yeah, it's always good to score, Dean. I mean, you didn't score many, but you did score some important ones, I guess.
Yeah, I scored probably most of my goals were at Sunderland, I think.
Yeah, I mean, as for a Middlesbrough fan, I could say that you're very welcome in Middlesbrough, because not many Mackems are. There's not many of them, and so
yeah, I'm probably not welcome in Sunderland, to be honest. I mean, the last game I played, going back to Sunderland, by the way, where I had a decent 5 years.
Yeah, great.
Remember the last game against Bolton? I got booed every time I touched the ball. Every time I touched the ball throughout that whole game, I got booed. Obviously, the club wasn't going great at the time. wasn't the worst. But when they don't want somebody there, they make their selves heard, and I was the target that day. And
yeah,
look, you have to have broad shoulders. You have to have a strong mentality. You have to, stand up and be strong, or else, clubs and big clubs, come with big pressure, and if you can't handle that, you fall down pretty quickly.
It's interesting that you say that, because I feel like some of the fans I've spoke to have really forgotten that last day against Bolton. So
I'll never forget it.
You can, but I feel like you might be in the clear a little bit. You might be able to show your face once or twice. If the assistant role comes knocking at Sunderland under Lee Johnson, you never know, mate. You might have to go back.
It might be Boro manager next season.
Could be Boro manager, Dean. Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, we do have a
Neil Warnock's done a fantastic job.
Yeah, he is, but like he does say that his age is the main stumbling block.
I've heard him say this many years already.
Where do you think he's going to stay on?
Oh, stay on. He's close to the playoffs in Middlesbrough. You're telling me he's going to stop? When football, people who've been in the game so long, they're obsessed with it. They can't live without it, and I can't see it just yet. No.
Have you seen much of Middlesbrough this year? Have you forgot the chance?
Bits and bobs. I mean, we played Middlesbrough early on at Shrewsbury in the Carling Cup. We played really well that night, and
it did.
They scored important goals. Our keeper had a disaster that day. Probably gave you maybe 2 or 3 goals, but no, I've not seen loads of them. See them against Huddersfield the other night. That was on TV. But look, Neil Warnock's teams, they're effective. They win games, and they'll be in and around the playoffs for sure.
Well, I like to think so, and it's nice to hear from you that you might think Warnock's going to stay for another year. But what's next for you, Dino? What's next to you? Is there a coaching role that you fancy, or you're just playing the waiting game at the minute?
There's lots of things I fancy, but it's whether people fancy taking me. That's the thing.
Yeah.
No, but look, opportunities in it. Young coaches, young managers. You're looking for opportunities, and I'm sure something will come up. In the near future. I've had a bit of time to reflect on what went well and what didn't go so well at Shrewsbury, and it's been a good time to take a little bit of a back seat and understand what you're good at and what needs improvement. Yeah,
do you think it's going to be a head coach role, or are you going to go for an assistant again?
I think ultimately, my end goal is, I want to be a head coach, manager, whatever the club works. But in the meantime, I understand I need experience. I need, you need time at a club to spend and learn new things, make mistakes. But ultimately, I want to be a head coach. But any kind of coaching role at the moment is perfect for me.
Okay, so final question out of your 19-year career. You've played with a lot of players in that time, but if I could give you, say, a 5-a-side team to choose from, You can have a couple of subs as well, and you can pick a coach at the end. What would be the Dean Whitehead five-a-side team? And what would you call yourself as well? I think that's a great question. If you could pick a five-a-side team, then.
Oh, you're just chucking that on me now. What would I call it?
Go on, then. You can pick your five-a-side team and then your subs, and then I'll let you off with a name.
Goalkeeper. Think goalkeeper. We had some decent goalkeepers at Sunderland. Craig Gordon, obviously, I think he was the record signing for a goalkeeper at the time. 9 million, a lot of money. Asmir Begovic, but I think I'll go for a keeper that was on loan at Boro when I was there. Really stabilised us as a team in terms of clean sheet. We were conceding too many goals, and his communication, his organisation skills, and his leadership was very, very good. And on top of being a top keeper, so Shay Given will be in goal.
Great choice. Really
good choice.
Two defenders. I'm going to have to go with one of my pals. Big German, no nonsense, edit, kick it, attack set play, score goals. Brilliant guy off the pitch. A winner, he's won the Premier League now. So I'll stick the big German, Robert Ufer, at the back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to stick him with a ball playing centre back because Ufi's not the best on the ball. So I'm going to stick him in with someone again on loan at Sunderland from Man United, who's gone on and had a brilliant career again. When he came in to Sunderland, he really hit the ground running straight away as a young player. So Jonny Evans will go alongside Hoofy at the back. Midfield, I'm going to go probably two that you.
Do you pick yourself?
No, not good enough.
Okay. Fair enough.
No.
You got to ask. You've got to ask.
Yeah, you got to ask. No. So the first one, a player that Tony Pulis got the best out of. He was very, influential for our team when I was there. Provided so many assists, provided so much of our attacking play. So Matty Everington will go in midfield. I'm not sure kind of how my midfield kind of sets up, but let's not worry about that. The next one, I think, is a player that is so underrated. And I think if this player had maybe a yard or two extra pace, he would probably be playing, at least top end of the Premier League, top six, pushing on. I think he's in China now. So Aaron Moy will be in midfield. What a player! The season he had when we got promoted and in the first season of Premier League was phenomenal. Technical ability, the way he protects the ball, the way he controls the tempo of games. And the centre forward would be the robot. Big Crouchy up top.
Crouchy.
Yeah, I think we had so many good times, playing in Europe and reaching FA Cups. And I remember his goal against Man City, the one that was a long ball, a flick on from Jermaine Pennant, didn't even know he could head the ball, and then Crouchy bangs in a looping volley over Joe Hart, and the crowd goes mental. So, technically, for a 6'7" player his technique was a joke. Top level. So basically that's the team where they might not be necessarily be the most high profile ones that I've played. I've played with York, I've played with Owen, I've played with Ida Good Johnson, Johnny Woodgate, but I've picked that on how I felt they had influenced the team when I was at that particular club. And on the bench, I had Nzonzi and Steve Malbronk. If that.
Steve Malbronk, wow, that's a massive throwback. That is a huge throwback.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that proves probably how old I am. So it's not great, is it?
Yeah, that's not saying anything, Dino. Not saying anything. I'm not saying anything, but it's a good team. That Dino. I'm not mad at that. I think it's a very scary defense, though. I think Robert Huth and obviously with Crouchy as well. You're definitely playing with height.
Yeah, we've got a bit of height. We've got a bit of technical ability. We got a bit of flair. It's a bit of everything.
Yeah, do you throw yourself in as a coach if you're not?
I'm the manager. Yeah, I'm the manager.
Yeah, fair enough. That was going to be the last question of if you could pick the manager, who would you pick? But I'm assuming it's yourself and the Dean 05 will probably will come with goals sent near you probably.
Well, let's hope so, huh?
Yeah, I hope so. But Dino, thank you very much for joining us tonight. I really do appreciate you coming on and chatting to us. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was really insightful and it gave us a good indicator of your career. And I hope you go on to have a long managerial career as well. And I'm sure that you'll be successful with the way that you've played as a career and how professional you've been, and you've been told as a leader, especially by Jonny Hogg as well. Hogg was singing your praises when I watched a few videos of him. So I don't know how much you slipped in for him to say a few of those words. But yeah, mate, all the best for your management career.
Yeah, thank you
very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So, as always, guys, if you'd like this podcast, do give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. We really do appreciate that, and it also helps us get found by other Boro fans, but also in this case, Huddersfield fans, not Leeds fans, Sunderland fans, and Oxford fans as well. And but Dino, thank you very much for joining us. This has been the Boro Breakdown Podcast, and that was all your matchday chatter in a pod.